Hello mga kavakla, for today's video, hahanapin natin yung isa sa mga landmark dito sa Metz, France. At ito na nga yung Metz Cathedral. So, dito ako ngayon sa downtown na tinatawag or city center papunta sa Metz Cathedral. Pero habang naglalakad tayo, habang nakikita nyo yung mga eksena dito sa video na ito, share muna ako ng information about this Metz, France. So search lang tayo para may napapakinggan tayong mga history. It has been 8 centuries to the year since Pope Honorius III issued an edict to raise money for a new cathedral in the city of Metz. And while it would be years before the first stone was laid, the 3 centuries until the building was complete, the French city has chosen 2020 to celebrate the birthday of a spectacular structure known as a God's Lantern. So makikita nyo mamaya kung bakit sinabi siyang God's Lantern pag nakita natin yung loob ng Metz Cathedral. It is a nickname befitting both of the building's distinctive honey-like glow, a property of the local limestone, and an expanse of stained glass that is among the world's largest, featuring one of the tallest naves in Gothic architecture, Metz Cathedral, or to give it its formal name, the Cathedral of Saint Stephen, can be considered among the finest examples of medieval church building. Nung nasa Vienna ako, meron din sila dong famous na St. Stephen's Cathedral. Sa ilalim nun, it's a catacombs. Merong libingan ng mga thousands of na mga skeletons. So hindi ko alam if this is related doon sa Vienna's Cathedral. Kasi pareho sila ng pangalan. But yung Vienna kasi is like a mother church of Roman Catholic, something like that. So yeah, anyway, and yet it is far less famous than similarly sized contemporaries, namely Cologne Cathedral and Notre Dame in Paris, according to Christoph Brackmann, who specializes in medieval art and architecture at the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill. This is due to Metz's long history of political wrangling, which saw the city change hands between kingdoms and empires. It shows just how national and perspective of art historians is. He said in a phone interview, "The cathedral doesn't fit in any national context. Lorraine, the region Metz is located in, moved back and forth from the 16th century between France and Germany. So it never served as a point of identification for either. As a result, the building remains one of Western Europe's better-kept secrets, despite its unique architecture and a history that has seen it survive war, fire, and sieges, and for fans of renowned artist Marc Chagall, it is something of a pilgrimage site. In the late 1950s, the painter joined a centuries-long line of artisans to produce stained glass windows for the church. Even now, the cathedral is evolving. The South Korean artist Kim Soo-ja set to unveil a futuristic window design next year. When the Roman Pope issued his decree in 1220, Metz was one of the largest and most important commercial hubs in the Holy Roman Empire. With Europe's architectural tastes progressing, the flourishing city would, by the middle of that century, replace many of its buildings with or renovate them in the style of Gothic ones. 3 dozen of them have survived to today, albeit in varying state of preservation. According to Brackmann's research, what ties them together is the use of Haumont or Jaumont limestone, which can only be quarried from a few hectares of land just outside Metz, with iron oxide giving it a vivid yellow hue. The stone was cut into uniform blocks and, though expensive at the time, used in structures across the city. Metz Cathedral was one of the most impressive among them, but while the church bears many of the hallmarks of Gothic architecture, flying buttresses, ribbed vaults, and an ornate pointed spire, the design broke with many of the tradition of the time. Its low arcade and absence of a two-towered western facade are both considered atypical according to Brackman. The building's small footprint also means that the church is remarkably narrow and is not oriented along the traditional west-east axis. Some of this may be attributed to the steep hill found on one side, but it also appears that the cathedral was designed to preserve structures already on the site, which had been home to religious architecture long before the 13th century. This is evident, Brackman said, in one of the building's most striking historical quirks, that the known architect incorporated an existing church into his design, rather than ordering its demolition and start from scratch. Obviously, they didn't want to destroy history in this case. Brackman said of the apparent revenge towards Met's architectural heritage, the normal thing would have been to say to those occupying the surrounding buildings, "We'll give you some money and some land and you can move there." This was the case in Amiens, when they extended the cathedral there in the 13th century. It would be the normal thing to do. What happened at Metz was very unusual. Construction would take another 300 years to complete. This was slow even by medieval standards. Aside from the logistical challenges, various other events contributed to the delay, not least the War of Metz and the siege in the 1320s, as well as economic downturns and Black Deaths rampaged throughout Europe. Metz Cathedral is the cathedral of the Catholic Diocese of Metz, the seat of the bishops of Metz. It is dedicated to Saint Stephen. The diocese dates back at least to the 4th century, and the present cathedral building was begun in the early 14th century. With around 6,500 square meters or 70,000 square feet of stained glass windows, the story of Metz Cathedral is not just one of the religion and architecture, it's one of art. With around 6,500 square meters or 70,000 square feet of stained glass windows, the story of Metz Cathedral is not just one of religion and architecture, it's one of art. The three are, however, closely linked. The development of flying buttresses during the Gothic period helped reduce the stress on load-bearing walls, allowing for larger openings that could be filled with dazzling display of colors. Metz Cathedral design took full advantage, and the resulting effect is a play of light and shadow. Through the years, the church has commissioned designs by artists spanning eras and styles. The three tiers of windows feature work by one of the 14th century's most famous glassmakers, Hermann von Munster, and that of Renaissance artist Valentin Bosch less than 200 years later. So ayun na nga guys, ito ang isa sa mga historical landmark ng Metz, and sana nag-enjoy kayo at may natutunan kayo, and yeah, I am uploading more of my Europe travel, so you better check that out on my videos. So thank you for watching. Bye.